When we think of the Today Show, we now immediately think of the former home of Matt Lauer, and with mounting sexual misconduct accusations coming out, more accusers telling New York Times, telling Variety these graphic details about Lauer having sex in his office with an NBC staffer who then passed out and had to be taken to the nurse. Lauer exposing himself to another woman. Lauer giving a sex toy to yet another woman with an explicit note. All of this now kind of changing the image of the Today Show because Matt Lauer was such an integral part of that program for 2 decades. But there was another sexual harassment story treated on the Today Show, very different, that has changed the conversation about somebody else, a politician. As you probably know, John Conyers, the Democratic Congressman from Michigan, the 88-year-old Dean of the House, has been facing mounting allegations of his own, which he has denied, but there is that $27,000 settlement with one woman who sued him, former staffer, and he was paid off with taxpayer money. But he has been sort of hanging on, and there haven't been very many liberal pundits or Democratic politicians who have called for Conyers to have to resign. But here's what happened. NBC's Savannah Guthrie interviewed a woman named Marion Brown. She's a former deputy chief of staff to Congressman Conyers. And she came forward, she went on camera. This is no longer abstract. This is no longer an unidentified source. And described in what I thought was a very powerful interview what happened when she worked for him. She said that Congressman Conyers engaged in sexual harassment. He violated my body. Marion Brown said he would invite her to hotels. He would proposition her for sex. He touched me in very different ways. In one particular instance, she said that he got undressed down to his underwear. And she also talked about grappling with the situation. She liked her job. She needed the money. She had a family to help support. And so she didn't quit. She didn't know who she could complain to, but she's going public now. Well, hours after this Today Show interview aired, Nancy Pelosi, the House Democratic leader, called on her Democratic colleague to resign. Pelosi originally started out, not saying anything really negative against Conyers. Then she talked to one of the women and said, well, she believed that woman, but she still stopped short of that. And so this is the power of television. This is the power of somebody going on camera, telling their story. I mean, we saw this with Roy Moore, obviously still a viable candidate in Alabama, but when the sources were on the record, and particularly when somebody went on television. And we've seen this with others as well. Al Franken, also facing more accusers, also not really getting many calls to resign from Democrats, even though the number of women who say that he groped them during photo ops or tried to aggressively kiss them is now 5 or 6. I'm losing track. So the important thing here is that Democrats as well as Republicans should be held to the same standard. Politicians as well as media people should be held to the same standard. But when a woman, and this has to be difficult, is willing to tell her story publicly with her name attached on camera, as happened with Marion Brown on the Today Show, I think it changes the debate. It certainly moved the House Democratic leader and an increasing pressure on John Conyers. Of course, nobody, not even Nancy Pelosi, as Conyers' lawyer said, can force him to resign. He can only be ousted at the ballot box. But the more and more you lose support in your own party, the more difficult it is to continue. And that, in a nutshell, is the power of television news.